What's up guys, Ian Sandusky from Let's Machine back here again for Practical Machinist. Today on Shop Talk, we're going to be taking a look at a few interesting Practical Machinist forum posts. But before we do, make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so as mentioned, today on Practical Machinist Shop Talk, we're going to be going through and taking a look at some interesting forum posts I found on Practical Machinist and just kind of discussing them a little bit. For those of you who don't know, maybe you were introduced to us Practical Machinists through either the Instagram or YouTube. Practical Machinist originally started out as, and still is, an excellent resource for machinists in the form of a forum. And what a forum is, for those of you who are maybe born after 2005, is basically it's a message board. They're very useful for exchanging information, so if you haven't been to it, make sure you go to it and check it out. I go on there all the time. I tend to read a little bit more than I tend to comment or post, but there's a lot of great information there from different kinds of machines to shop ownership stuff to troubleshooting programs you have. So if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you do. The first post that we found today, which we're going to link right here, is one that was a guy who was discussing the 80-20 rule. And for those of you who haven't seen that video, we're going to pop it up here. I have done a video on the 80-20 rule before. But the 80-20 rule, before we get into that, what this guy was saying, or this individual was saying, was that he had a problem with the shop management. A new CEO had come in. It sounds like they're a fairly big facility, but the new direction that the company was going to be clearly stated as heading in was the new CEO wanted to apply the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle as it's also called. And the way this guy was applying it, or at least sounded like this guy wanted to apply it, was that he recognized, as the 80-20 rule often states, that 80% of their profit was coming from 20% of their customer base. So what this individual wanted to do was go and essentially cut off the other 80% of their customer base that didn't really make them that much money and just focus on that 20%. And the guy who was posting about this was a little confused and a little bit alarmed, saying, we're gonna cut out, so he put a number out there of $20 million worth of business just to focus on this 20%. And was looking for a little bit of advice regarding that. And my thoughts on this, from a very limited standpoint, from what I understand, is the 80-20 rule is a very powerful tool. The Pareto principle has been around for a long time for a good reason, and that's because it applies in most cases out there. 80% of your customers are, 20% of your customers are going to give you 80% of your profit. 20% of your customers are probably going to give you 80% of your headaches and problems. It's a quick way to identify and choose where to focus. The problem that I see and have seen, and I see right now in this kind of discussion, is that it is a tool to identify, or a tool to help narrow down what you should be focusing on and areas for improvement. What it is not is telling you to only focus on that 20%. And the reason for that is this: 80% of your customers may not make you that big job money. They may not be ordering consistently. They may not be, turning around jobs that you can retire on every week, and that's okay. The big thing is you don't know which part of that 80% of your customers is going to turn into that 20% that gives you a ton of, leverage and success. That 20% who gives you 80% of your profits probably are not always over the years going to be the same customers. So by cutting off a big portion of your customers, or paying no attention to that 80% of smaller jobs and smaller customers, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I don't see this working out extremely well for this company. Do companies go and only have 2 customers or 1 customer and do well? Yes. The problem becomes that you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and all it takes is a new purchasing agent, or a contract expiry, or a new shop coming in that can undercut you, and all of a sudden you're out in the weeds and you're starting from zero. So using the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, is extremely useful, and it is a tool. It should not be the only thing you use or the only consideration you make when you're looking at jobs. The next post on there that I found very interesting was a guy who came on, we'll link it right here, and he had one of those situations that come up more frequently than you would think, which is he had an opportunity to quote on a job. He had a guy that wanted to get some work done, and he immediately said, should I just walk from this job because this guy seems like he's gonna be a headache. He has a big ego. I can see problems happening. So should I walk and not even quote? Or should I add, an extra 100% or 50% onto the total job cost in order to basically make this worth my time? And the discussion after that was interesting because it seems like, I've had this kind of situation come up before and I thought it was a little more rare than it is, but I guess this is an extremely common thing that happens out there based on all the responses. So I highly recommend seeing what other people said on this. But these situations come up, and as a guy who, whether you work on the floor or whether you're working, in a direct customer-facing role, in this line of work, whether it's, just manufacturing as a general industry or, the customer base we serve, there are a lot of egos out there, and I think that's true of any industry. I don't think that's specific to us, but I can tell you for sure there are a lot in this industry, and it is difficult to work with. To directly answer that question from my perspective, I think that it's very easy to get greedy and say, do you know what, this guy seems like he's gonna give me an issue. I can tell already there are gonna be problems with QC. I can tell right off the bat that this guy's not gonna be someone who is good to work with if any issues come up. I can tell that, he's gonna find problems in order to delay payment. And I shouldn't say I know, but I can see this happening with this kind of personality that I'm getting here. And it's easy to be greedy and say, do you know what? I'll just mark it up until it's worth it. And have I done that before and has it worked? Yes. Has it ultimately been worth it? Honestly, no. There's only two things that are really finite in life, in my opinion, and that is your time and your patience. And your mental health isn't worth getting stressed out over, some guy who doesn't want to pay you because you took an extra day past, their first deadline, or going back and forth with someone for weeks because they've said a finish is no good when they agreed to it on paper, you have it in writing, and great, let's go get some lawyers. These kind of situations, it's playing with fire. You can very easily make good money, and some guys, will say right off the bat, I just mark it up till it's worth it, and I do these kind of jobs all the time. But in my experience, and at this point in my career, I try to stay away from this. I'm not saying that having a strong personality out there is bad. Strong personalities get things done. But there definitely is a kind of person out there who will basically just be more trouble than it's worth to work with. So being able to identify these kind of people off the bat and maybe steer them towards someone else who may be a little more compatible with that kind of personality or method of working, that's kind of served me a little better now. I definitely think that there is a shop for everybody to get their work done, and for some people that's just not going to be my shop. So that's kind of my opinion on that, guys. I do want to hear in the comments below, what you guys think about quoting work on a job that is going to be a headache, or dealing with people who have a strong personality that may be a little bit abrasive, and how you guys have learned to either work with that or learn to filter that out from your business. The last one we're going to touch on here was another interesting one, and I feel like it was a very relatable situation that everybody has been in before. We'll link it right here. But a guy came on to the shop ownership and management issues subforum and was telling a story that he had accidentally snapped at a customer. I believe this guy, from what I understood, was a supervisor, so he's not the owner, he's not the straight manager, but he would typically be the main point of contact for customers on a job like this. And what had happened was a guy came in to check on his work, something got screwed up, there was a miscommunication, and the individual posting snapped at that customer. He lost his temper. And he was feeling a bit bad, he was feeling worried, he was very aware of what he did, and he was just trying to look to ask what he should do now. And it was an interesting discussion as well. I think everybody's been there. I have definitely done this before. I haven't directly snapped on a customer before, but I have definitely had situations where I have been short with customers. I have not explained myself to customers properly because I was irritated with something that had happened. I have definitely let words fall out of my mouth, nothing super offensive or anything, but I've let things come out of my mouth that after I go, oh man, I should not have said that. And now I'm worried about the relationship being damaged. I'm worried about, them not wanting to come back. Because at the end of the day, guys, there is no place for anger in a shop anywhere, in my opinion. I try to run my shop. I don't yell. None of my guys yell at each other. We have discussions. You can have a discussion with somebody that tells them that you are not pleased with the way something is going on, but there is a way to voice concerns and a way to voice frustration or confusion that isn't anger. It doesn't get anything done. It doesn't even make you feel better, because look, like what this guy just said. At the end of the day, now he's worried. So he went from being angry, he got it out, and now he's worried. He was worried his boss was gonna get mad. He was worried that the customer wasn't gonna come back. And it just doesn't solve anything. So somebody else posted in this forum comment that I thought was awesome. And that was, anger is just an expression of fear. And it's true. When you get angry at somebody, it's because you're afraid something is going to happen, or you're afraid of a result. You know, if somebody messed up a part and I'm not afraid that the customer is going to be mad because I know I have time to just get another one made, then there's no anger there, because I know it's fine. If I have to go give some customer bad news, but I know they're going to be fine with it, then there's no anger towards the reason that happened, because there's no fear. I'm not afraid of their reaction. I'm not afraid of losing that customer. So realizing that anger is an expression of fear, which I thought was an excellent point in there, does kind of help this work. The other thing is, guys, you have to be a professional. You have to be a professional. And that means a level of emotional detachment from your work and a level of emotional detachment from, you know, everything that goes into business. And that doesn't mean you can't be passionate or love what you do, but you do have to be able to detach at the end of the day and say, we're all just talking about pieces of metal. We all have deadlines, I get it, but snapping and not being a professional is not gonna make that better. And professionals, who are the kind of people, you know, like as we talked about in the last little vignette here about the difficult to work with people, those are not professionals. Those people will get angry. People who are professional and know how to conduct themselves and, you know how to pay on time and know how to make drawings properly and all the good things that a customer is going to be, those are professionals. They only want to work with professionals. And if you don't have a level of professionalism where you can control your emotions, they're not going to want to work with you, because now you've become that difficult person from that last little thing we talked about. And people will avoid you and will come on forum posts and say, you know what, I love this machine shop and I love the work they do, but the guy I talk to, he's always angry. And all of a sudden we're going to be talking about you in one of the next videos, okay? Anyways, guys, I want to hear your thoughts below. Feel free to comment on any of the ones we just talked about or anything else you'd like to talk about, and make sure you go and check out the Practical Machinist forum. Like I said, it's an amazing resource, and there's a lot of information there that you can, you know, absorb on your own time when you're not on the floor to help build yourself into a better machinist and, you know, try to learn the ins and outs of parts of your job that you may be trying to focus on, okay? Thank you very much for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. You take care.